What's up, Skirt Up Squad? Did you just take my line? It's Samantha.
And Melissa.
I'm going to actually tell you guys how it is right now.
It was so fun.
We couldn't even make it up. I'm going to do it. I'm going to wear it in public. And she looks at me and she goes, that's what Jesus is for.
We are about normalizing things that are hard to talk about.
So I was like, deer in headlights, skirts out. But keep your panties on.
I know I just hit record, but then I just thought of another thing to put on my list to do today.
Sam's getting busy.
I don't know what made me think of it, but we hit record, and then all of a sudden my brain goes, oh, another thing to do today. Change voicemail to something more professional.
Ooh. Or do you have your own number? Do you have a number for your sweet soul?
No, not yet. That should be something else on the to-go list, actually, because that's wiser.
Well, make it. So the way I have it for the shop is I have a Google Voice number, but it gets routed to my phone.
Yeah.
So like I don't know. I like that. It helps to kind of have it separate. But yeah. Anyway, how are you?
Doing good. And if you guys haven't figured it out, this is Samantha.
I was just gonna say, I guess we need to be like, what's up, Skirt Up Squad?
But wait, should we?
I mean, isn't that we want to welcome our friends?
Oh, that's right. What's up, Skirts Up Squad? It's Samantha.
And Melissa. And Sam is actually more excited than she sounds. I'm sure of it.
Yes, I am happy to be here. So funny. It's like we're getting towards the end of the season, and then I'm just like, oh, they knew who we are at this point. It's like season 4.
That's hilarious. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. They've heard it all before, every episode.
But we do keep gaining more and more new listeners, so I guess I should be more enthusiastic with it.
You just can't wait to jump in and get to the juicy stuff. That's what it is.
Yeah, exactly. And plus, I'm just a little irritated right now because I have finished my office and I was looking forward to having this conversation with you in my new cozy office. And I still can't figure out why the internet is not steady in the office, and it's making me mad. But speaking of the office, I have remodeled it all by myself with wallpaper, and the wallpaper is like this really pretty, like floral,
watercolory.
Yeah. It's a bunch of colors. Yeah, it's really pretty. And I did it all by myself. So it has a lot of flaws. So where it meets the ceiling, a lot of the areas are not glued exactly to the wall. And then some areas, it's just, there's a bunch of parts that just are not glued to the wall. But you know what? I still love the space, and I did it by myself, and it was the first time I've ever done it before. So I am choosing to not see the flaws in it and appreciate that I did something hard by myself for the first time, and I still love the space.
Yeah. That's awesome. It reminds me because I was just with a friend last night and we were at the gym, and I guess they felt like they didn't have a good workout, and they said, well, I'm choosing to see today as maybe not a physical win, but a mental win. And I was like, oh yeah, because we are right, duh. We can choose to see things in the light that we want. And I'm glad that you reminded us that, because I saw your room and I thought that it looked fine. I didn't see, not more than fine. I thought it looked cute. I didn't see any flaws, and I wouldn't unless you were to point them out, probably.
Oh, no, you just wait until you come into my room in 2 days. You will walk in and your initial thought will, of course, be, wow, this is beautiful. But then as soon as you sit down, you're going to be like, yeah, that's not attached. That's not attached. Those are 2 different pieces that I just glued together. But yeah, old me would have just cried and been so mad of how, crappy it turned out. But honestly, it's just so pretty, and it's such a happy space with bright colors. And I
also want to say it's a safe space, right? Like you're there to help people heal. And if they're there to judge your room on the little things, then maybe they're not ready to heal. I don't know, just saying.
Do you,
But yeah,
okay, well, I just heard you say that at the gym. So does that mean you continued with your,
kind of. I only went twice last week and I feel kind of bad about that, but
okay, you're saying
actually,
only,
okay.
but I mean, that's still 2 more times than you did 5 months ago.
That's so true. That is so true. And actually, I was going to say my fail was going to be another thing. And I feel like they kind of relate. Actually, I feel like all of this is the same. It's about
It
choosing
does
to
seem like
do
the
things the
theme.
way
Yeah.
you want to. Yeah. So the fail that I was going to share, and I already told Sam this, guys, but basically, you guys, I may or may not know that I have kind of a crazy work schedule. And so I might work, 10 days and then take a day off. I might work 2 weeks and take a day off, 3 weeks, take a day off. Um, every once in a while, I'll get a couple days in a row off. Anyway, my point being, I took a day off yesterday and I kept thinking all I could do was kick myself all day because I was like, I should be vacuuming. I should be cleaning the litter box. I should be doing all of these things. Like, even I got some hair dye, so I was gonna dye my hair and try to save some money. Don't tell on me. Oh, everybody knows now. Anyway, our stylist would be like, anyway, the point is, I just had like all these things and I really couldn't relax. And all I did was feel guilty. And then this morning when I woke up, I felt kind of energized. And the first thought that came to my mind was kind of a gentle thought. It was like, oh, I think that I really needed to rest. I needed that day of doing nothing. And I think one, we can be more gentle with ourselves, and two, we can choose to see things like you did in a positive light.
Yeah.
Because
That
it's
is
not going
funny
to
how
help
that
to beat
all
ourselves
does
up.
seem together.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
you say that you were kicking yourself for doing nothing, like was it a cozy day curled up like on the couch reading books, or like what was that for you?
I literally was curled up in a chair in the living room playing my Nintendo Switch
Nice.
all day. All day. And like when I was like in the zone, I was enjoying it and I was all cuddly but then like at the same time, like I wasn't really letting myself fully enjoy the moment. And now today I wish that I had, if that makes sense. So it's just something that I can do next time is just remember, hey, no, I'm re-energizing myself. I'm,
And
like
now
you
you
said,
can
it's
remember
backwards.
the next day how you did feel energized, so it was like worth it.
Yeah. Actually, that is the goal. And speaking of remembering what we did, like how am I going to remember next time? Well, guess what? I have a new journal. It's called Spaghetti on the Wall.
You did it.
I did. I got the journal. I haven't used it yet, but it's a good way.
Ooh, and that does lead into our conversation today with the creator of Spaghetti on the Wall. This conversation just ends up being really just okay. I want to say all over the place, but what I mean by that is like we talk about the journal, but then it leads into so much more.
You're right. The conversation that I remember was basically a lot of, like you said, it changes throughout the years, but it was a lot of like how Kristen changed too.
But I
So
guess
have a
you guys
listen.
will have to find out and make your own decision.
There you go. Enjoy.
Today we have with us Kristan Swan. She is creator and writer of journals such as Spaghetti on the Wall and a self-proclaimed experiential learner, which I feel like we all are if you're listening to the show. So welcome, Kristen. We're so excited to have you.
Oh, thank you so
Hello.
much. I'm delighted to be here.
Melissa, you didn't get to see it, but Kristen had sent us one of her journals, Spaghetti on the Wall. You know, like how we've been talking about journaling every day, but then
Yes.
it's like people like me who go, I don't really know what to write here. I don't really
Yep.
know what to do. And so it's this journal that's pretty simple, honestly. And then there's a page
Yeah.
that tells you exactly like what to focus your brain on for each section. And so it breaks it
Okay.
down into like tangible journaling. So,
love this.
yeah, you didn't get to see it, but we have one. I'll send you a picture of
Okay,
it.
awesome. Awesome. Very
Yeah.
cool.
It's funny because journaling for me has been, I when I reflect back on it, I've always kind of kept a journal of sorts,
Mhm.
right? And I didn't call it a journal when I was little. I probably said it
Diaries.
my diary. And, it was kind of, I was an only child and grew up with a lot of adults. So kind of always being managed and lots of expectations and told what to do. And I was very compliant. But I tell you, I'd get on that page and I'd just be like, "Rah, rah, 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 rah," just all of those little 8-year-old emotions, spilling out on the page. And which I think it's kind of curious the way at different points in your life that different journaling modalities can be
Yes.
really helpful. Like I think that's a great way for a little kid to use a journal. Just have it be that kind of emotion dump or brain dump.
I for sure think so, because a lot of times, like children specifically, aren't really taught like how to feel their emotions or
Yeah.
even put a name to them.
Right.
And being able to get into a journal and just start writing about how you feel has got to be just a really healthy way to kind of learn how to do that, I guess.
Well, not
Yeah.
only that, but I mean, there's so much, well, at least for when I was growing up, there was, a lot of messaging, whether it was overtly said or not, that you kind of were assigned feelings. And so especially when you're a little kid, everything feels so big.
Yes.
When you're waiting for something, it feels like, oh my God, that thing, the thing that's gonna happen tomorrow, it's just taking forever. And
My
and
4-year-old
Yes.
says, "That's ages."
yes.
Oh, okay.
Everything is kind of outsized, and including feelings. And so it is such a great way, I think, to encourage kids to release. And also, I think the other thing that I love about any kind of journaling practice is really that it's for you. I mean, journals are not, I mean, obviously some people publish them later or posthumously, the
Sure.
author's writings will get shared. But I mean, for most of us, journals are just for us. And so it's a way that we can, we can say the kind of the scary thing, the ugly thing, and and we can kind of, hopefully it's a place of non-judgment.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
It's the way of saying things. Like, how they say, like, once you say something, you can't take it back. But, like, in your
Mhm.
journal, you can say whatever it is that you want to say and however it comes out. And then it didn't actually ever come out to, like, change anything, but you got it off your chest. And then even if you look back at it and you're like, well, that I'm glad I didn't say that. But, like, you got it off.
Yeah, I mean, I
yeah.
think to your point that it is this place that yeah, it's safe essentially, right? You're not harming anyone. Those thoughts that probably are better not said, do still, I think it's so great just to get it off your chest, so
Yeah.
to speak, because, we all know that holding on to stuff, it doesn't work that well.
Well, with
Right.
that being said, did you feel safe as a, 8-year-old having a journal where you're dumping your feelings and then like worrying about, oh, is an adult going to see this? Am I going to get in trouble for like even thinking this? Like, how was that for you?
I luckily, like I said, I didn't have siblings, and the adults in my life were pretty distracted by their own
Mm.
brand of drama. So
Okay.
I think I probably could have could have left my diary in the middle of the kitchen table and nothing, it would have been it just would have stayed there,
Yeah.
and
Oh,
gathered
not even
dust.
noticed. Oh man.
Did you keep a
Well,
diary,
that's
Melissa?
so when I was young, I was encouraged to. It's the religion I grew up in was like kind of, I don't know why, but it always talked about journaling and record keeping. Oh, I dropped the earbud. Um, sorry. So I said journaling and record keeping, and I don't know, like I did when I was young because I felt like I was supposed to. I don't think my journals were ever like that. I was thinking it as you said. I think I always expected eventually someone was going to read it. And so it was
Uh-huh.
Mm.
kind of not as safe of a place, if that makes sense.
It
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
authentic.
Yeah, like not when I don't know. Maybe sometimes it was, but anyway, but I haven't really record journaled at all like as I've gotten older, and I kind of for a long time had a bad taste in my mouth about it like, well, it's not something I want to do. I don't want to do it.
Uh-huh.
Why are they always forced to? But now I'm actually seeing the benefits of it. We've talked to quite a few people about it, and I I want to know more about your spaghetti on the wall journal. I think they might need one.
Well, when I see you this week, finally.
Yes. Well, and there's more on the website, so you can always order your own.
Amazing.
But well,
Definitely.
really, spaghetti on the wall, and I love it at this point in my life because it is, it for me, it's a daily practice. I like to do it at the beginning of the day, just to kind of, set the tone for the day in some ways. And it is meant to be done fairly quickly. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean, we're all busy. We all have a million things, even though we know that something might be good for us or might have benefits, right? It's like, just add it to the list of the other things that we're supposed to be doing that are so good
Yeah,
for us and all
Right.
that.
Right.
that's
And
the
so,
truth.
yeah, so it's like, 15 minutes max. I like to say that it's like a 12-minute commitment, right? And
Yeah. I
I
love that.
do really, the way that Sam was kind of alluding to how it was broken up, and that first part is encouraging people to think about, like I said, I do it in the morning, so I'm thinking about the day before, and really just kind of writing about the events of the day, um, through that non-judgmental observer kind of eye.
Hmm.
So it's less about, and then subsequently there's a part that's called the experience evaluator, and that's where you can kind of dig into the kind of the highs and the lows of your day, the places that felt like you were really in alignment or really kind of you, and then those places where you were like, oh, this isn't this, I call it not
Yeah.
so much, right? And it's
Hmm.
like, and it's again, I think why at a certain point a journal like this is so helpful is it really is designed to get out of negative self-talk, especially.
Okay.
Because I think a lot of journaling, if you're just kind of free flow journaling, you know, sometimes, at least for me, there was a period of time where I wasn't really making choices that were in they weren't the person that I wanted to be, and they weren't the person that I knew I could be. Yet I
Right.
kept kind of repeating really bad behavior and poor choices, right? And when I say
Yeah.
bad
Yeah. And we've
behavior,
all been there.
I mean behaviors that were not kind of going to get me to those things that I was thinking that I wanted, right?
Are you open to sharing some
Yeah.
of those just so that
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think I mentioned I am on my third marriage, and I am so grateful at this point to be with someone that is a really wonderful fit, and I love him dearly. And when I first got married, number one, I was way too young. And I think I was like 22, 23. And I was making that choice based on kind of feeling lost. And I hadn't really, I knew that I wanted to be a parent. That was really important for
Mhm.
me. I didn't have necessarily a real career path that I was particularly excited about. I kind of had been doing jobs in a lot of ways, and I did this for many years too. I mean, there's a lot of parallels in terms of my growth and evolution is a lot of my career path was kind of people saying, "Oh, I think you're good at this, so why don't you try it?" And rather than taking the time to figure out, and that may be true, I may be good at it, but maybe there's something that I'm good at that I also want to do, right?
Yeah.
And I think in some ways that these marriages were, they were meant to create a sense of family that I was longing for. They were meant to create stability that I hadn't necessarily grown up with. And so all the while I'm looking for answers externally, and I'm
Hmm.
completely ignoring kind of what I know to be true for myself, and also just I'm just ignoring. It's like I'm afraid to get to know myself.
Oh, interesting. So do you feel like at that time, like when you were journaling, do you feel like you were being authentic in your journals at that time?
I think I was being authentic, but I think I didn't have I still was operating at in some ways, such a superficial level, because I was saying there was
Hmm.
just, kind of the free form of journaling, of documenting. A lot of it just would dissolve into I'm such a loser, right?
Like negative. Yeah.
I'm, I'm not I'm not, you know, I'm not doing the things that I want to be
That makes
doing, or
sense
yeah. So
because you're like in a place where you were talking about the journal being a safe space. And if those are the things that you're like, that's honestly, it sounds like it was just a reflection of the space that you were in,
yeah.
a true reflection, which sometimes do you think that like having writing it down makes it easy to like go back and be like, hey, I don't know, I feel like it's probably good for you because you can go back and be like, this is where I was and look where I am now.
I think it's good it's helpful in that way. I do think that it can be it also can kind of be reinforcing some
Yes,
negative thinking,
yes,
because if your lens is kind of skewed to criticizing yourself always. I mean, God knows, every single day, right? There's a million things I could think about. Oh, I wish that thing that
for
I that
sure.
that
Yeah.
dish I made turned out better and tasted better. I wish that, this. I mean, there's so many different things. So
Yeah.
if that's what your lens is, and I think at that time that was kind of my journaling lens, because I didn't have kind of the tools to, like I said, have more of a expansive view um of life in general, but just who I was, and recognizing that there's well, number one, like, criticizing ourselves relentlessly doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily usually inspire us to
Change.
change.
When you were talking, it kind of like reminds me that like we all kind of end up, I think we all, I know I did, end up in this like moment where you don't realize what you don't realize. So you don't realize
Yeah.
what there is outside of what you're feeling. Like when I was in that area of, oh, I think my marriage is falling apart, like I'm never happy, like what's gonna make me happy, but then like I literally don't know what would make me happy, like I just know I'm not happy. And so that's
Yeah.
like what all the
Right.
writing is just, well, it's just another day of sitting on the couch staring at the wall, but like that, and that's the only scope I have. I don't know what's out there. And so now it's different. I'm in a whole different spot where there's it back then, if I would have written about things that I was writing about now, I would have been like, oh, well, that was like a crazy dream I must have had last night, like it's just it changes.
Your
Yeah.
perspective and your introspection.
Mhm.
Well, and I think what really helped for me in terms of making a shift that was really significant
Yeah.
and kind of got me on the path that I find myself on today is I I had I've had different businesses. I've always been very entrepreneurial, even as a little kid. I was knocking on doors and asking my neighbors. I was coming up with all sorts of jobs I could do for them. But
Mhm.
I
I
tried to sell pictures that I drew.
that I never tried that. I always was I like that though.
Sweet.
That would be very sweet.
I totally had forgotten all about that until you said that. And I have this very vague or not like very distinct memory of living in these apartment complexes in Texas. And my friend and I drew these pictures and then we were door knocking, like, would you like to buy this picture for $1?
That's sweet.
That's very sweet. I love that. But I what I the shift for me is when I realized I had been doing landscape design for a lot of years. And
Okay.
again, it was one of those things that I fell into because this was when my kids were really little and we had bought a home it was a little tiny, tiny home with this kind of crazy big backyard that just was a mishmash of all sorts of things. And so, no, we had zero disposable income, but I had time because I was home with the kids and it was great to spend time outdoors. So slowly kind of evolve that into a really nice space, and people took notice and said, oh, you're really good at this, come and take a look at my house. And then I eventually made a business out of it, and it was great and it was fun. And I kind of realized at a certain point that I wanted to shift to business coaching, because I
Okay.
really wanted to help people be successful in their businesses and in things that they were really excited about, right? And I think that, again, it's like little bits of information are starting to trickle in, right?
Ah,
That I am really drawn to helping people who have, unlike me, who have identified that thing that's really meaningful to them. And
right.
so, in working with my business coaching clients, and most of them were independent business owners, so smaller businesses, I think at the most, maybe a dozen employees, so smaller. And most of the time, my business owners were the founders. So they had started the business. And, so it was kind of part of my job was kind of helping them grow and mature with their businesses. And I would work with them, on some people a weekly basis, right? At certain times. And I would notice that they would obviously a lot of what you do in the conversation is you hear about what's not working, right? You hear about
Sure.
what the things that didn't go quite right. And I mean, I felt like at a certain point it was like Groundhog Day, right? Because it was these, just
Same
loops of
story.
kind of the same story. And I remember thinking specifically, I was like, okay, I know that I'm not in the business of changing people necessarily.
Mhm.
However, I do know for myself, when I get little glimpses of awareness, that's where I can begin to even contemplate change, right? So,
Yeah.
what is a tool that I can create that will allow for awareness to bubble up? And
Yeah.
that was spaghetti on the wall. And of course, the irony, is that here I am making this tool for my clients where I'm the one who's so, I mean, at this point, I'm in my
Interesting.
second marriage, and I, I'm desperately unhappy, and it was not a good choice. We were not a good fit for each other. And, I had again made some choices like getting married based on kind of old patterns and thought processes. So, spaghetti on the wall was very helpful for me too. And again, Sam, as you were saying, that sometimes when you're in the thick of it, you kind of you can't see what is possible, or you just, I mean, it's so hard to just see beyond what is kind of what you're maybe stuck in.
Yeah.
So with spaghetti on the wall, that's part of those experience evaluators, is that noticing of, those things that kind of light you up, right? That
Yeah.
where you just feel like, oh, I'd love to do more of this, or this feels so good, or I feel so relaxed, or whatever it is, right? And then also
Yeah.
noticing those things that don't feel that great. And again, it's not about making anything good or bad, it's just about that awareness.
Yeah. That's so neat. So when did you start creating spaghetti? It was during your second marriage.
It
So,
was, yeah, it was during my
okay.
second
So
marriage. So,
has it been
yeah.
out for a while? Or
It
that's just when you started?
I printed the first edition I did just for my clients. And
Okay.
so that was about 10 years ago. And it's funny because and I was using it, and I had my clients, and then I kind of, I don't know, life got busy, well, and then eventually COVID, and that was a whole thing,
Mhm.
of course, and all kind of normalcy went out the window for a while. And at the end of COVID, I found myself pretty exhausted. And about a year after things opened up again here in California, I found myself pretty exhausted. And I thought, I don't know if I have it in me anymore to be a business coach. So I was really at loose ends about what to do. And that is so not like me. I mean, usually I'm like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And da, 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 da. And I was like, oh, I'm just, yeah, I have to think about this a little bit.
Okay.
And so I went back to school and got a master's of education, and because I figured, well, I could teach. And I realized that probably being part of the bureaucracy of academia was not going to be a good fit for my entrepreneurial spirit.
Probably not.
No, so I did a project with a friend. I helped her get her book together, and was doing a lot of interviews for her book, and doing some different things for that. And so that was kind of a placeholder for me. Um, just it's hard for me not to be doing something, because I still have a lot of that
Yeah.
messaging that, I'm a human doing, not a human being. So I need to be.
Oh my goodness, that's how I am. Like I have this horrible thing that I'm working on with my therapist, but like where I feel like I'm not worthy if I'm not actually like
Yeah,
working.
I
And you're
know.
like, say yes to everything before like being able to see, do I actually have the bandwidth for this?
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've gotten better about pausing before the immediate yes. I
Okay.
used to be a blanket. I was like, yes, of course, yes. There's one
Yeah.
little thing that sounds remotely interesting in what you just described. And so of course.
Yeah.
And I will say, I mean, a lot of my yeses, have been some amazing journeys. I ended up
Yeah.
going to Liberia
Yeah.
on kind of one of those
Wow.
yeses, which was incredible. And I am so grateful for that experience. But, or I should say, and I
Love
also
that.
know that it's so much better for myself, but also so much better for everyone involved, that when I really am thoughtful about what I say yes to.
Yeah.
Because if I say yes to something and then I kind of show up half-heartedly, or if I say yes and then I really don't like it and I become slightly resentful or something, that's not good for me, but that's also not good for the other, the other people involved or the organization. And so I think it's a funny thing about that that self-worth piece, right? Where we are feeling compelled to, always be doing, right? To
Yeah.
prove that we have value, and that we, or in my own thinking, that we deserve to, hold space, right? And there's also a funny thing where we can end up saying, it's almost the same thing, because we can end up saying yes to things that are not the right fit. And it really comes from kind of a similar scarcity mentality, in that we're not acknowledging that that we're not the only one that could do this role. And in
Yeah.
fact, we, by our not being the right fit for this, that we really are, like I said, operating from this idea of lack rather than kind of possibility, because by us saying no, we then allow for the right person to be able to say yes, and for the whole experience to be so much more positive and
Yeah.
rich. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. It's like such a fine line between everything in this world, actually. Like for instance, I remember um talking, because I feel like what I'm hearing you say is like, remember, we're not the only ones. There's other people that can step in too. And it's like almost a narcissistic way of being. It's not though. It's
Yeah,
not.
it's definitely a little bit of hubris,
Right.
right?
Hubris. Yeah.
It's a little bit like we're the only ones who can do it. But if you really start digging into that, I think for a lot of us, it's not, for myself, I can say when I was a super yeser, I mean, if you had told me that, gosh, you sound pretty full of yourself, I would have been like, I don't feel very full of myself.
Yes.
Right. And so
Yes.
that's where I was saying, if you kind of, I think, peel it back a little bit, it is this, I think the real underlying motivation, or not motivation, kind of mindset, is that there isn't kind of this whole world of possibility where there are many different people that could be filling that role,
Yeah.
right? And
I
many
almost wonder if
different
it has some kind
outcomes.
of, yeah. I almost feel like it kind of has something to do with trust. Maybe you just didn't feel like you could trust other people. I don't know. Or me. I know I've been that way sometimes, and I took me like stepping back and looking at it. But no, it's interesting.
Yeah,
So
I definitely think trust. And I think, I mean, for me, the way that I grew up, there was a real emphasis on self-reliance,
yes,
to
for
the
me too.
point of, again, to the point of being, um, not really being able to ask for help,
Yeah,
right? And seeing that as such a weakness.
right.
I mean, a weakness or a vulnerability that I wasn't willing to step into. And I mean, I am a complete 180 on that now. I mean,
Good.
I feel so, I love asking for help, and I love learning from other people, and I I like not having all the answers.
Interesting. Can you expand a little bit on that? I know some people close to me who it really infuriates them because they just have to know why.
Are you trying to not
about?
say shut up? Yes, I say that my superpower, if I ever could have a superpower, it would be, what is it? Omniscient? Is that the word that I?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Well, I think I like to I I aspire to have a creative mindset. And so,
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're probably all familiar with the growth mindset that was a real pivotal book for me too, is thinking about that was Carol Dweck's work. And and I kind of think of the creative mindset as being kind of one step beyond the growth mindset. And so meaning that I when when I think I know how to do something, or when I think I kind of know something, there can be, and I think it's a common occurrence. I'm not being hard on myself, but I just think that there can be a tendency for me to kind of file it away and feel like, okay, like
Yeah.
that's this
That's
thing,
that.
that's that, right? And obviously we can't just be we can't just be like drinking from a fire hose of information all the time, which the world feels like right now anyways. But
Yeah.
it's I do like this idea of thinking or adjusting my mindset to a way where it's like, yes, I know this much about that thing. And I can say that I know this much because that's how much I've had with it. And I I have to recognize that there's a chance for me to learn more about it, or that it's not, the story is not kind of done, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think
I
about
like that.
even, well, like even when people, I mean, one of the things I, I read, like even if I'm going to go watch a movie or something, I don't want to read about the review necessarily,
Right.
because I feel like then I start already my thinking kind
Making
of
a
starts
box.
shrinking.
Mhm.
Yeah. I like that you said you're enjoying the unknown because it means there's more to the story. Like I feel like that's beautiful.
Yeah. Or even people. I really, sometimes someone wants to introduce you to someone, and then they start giving you like some backstory on them, and
Mm.
I'm always like, ooh, I don't actually just I want them to
Unbiased.
reveal what they want to me. Again,
Okay.
I don't want to be going in. I mean, obviously I need to know the person's name, and it's helpful if, a colleague is introducing me because they think that there's some, synergy or something. But I mean, other than that, I don't want it. I want it to I want to learn at the pace that that person and I are willing to learn,
Oh,
rather than
interesting.
somebody else's lens of how they experience
Right.
that person.
I actually kind of just had I wonder if this is where imposter syndrome is kind of born.
Mm.
Because when you were saying, that you like the not knowing of understanding that like this is what I know and this is why I know it because of lived experiences, but there's so much more to know and to learn. I think that kind of struck something with me when I think about my mental health practice. I know that I hold myself back with certain clients in certain areas because I don't know everything about it. And for me, that like makes me pull back of like, oh, why am I a practitioner? Like I don't know everything. So let me just reel on back. But then it's like that's probably where that imposter syndrome comes from, of like not accepting and feeling okay with the understanding that there's so much more to learn and know. Like no one expects you to know everything.
No,
Right.
and I think especially for the work that you're talking about, what a great, if if it's possible in some instances where it's appropriate to flip that and really notice that moment that you're kind of feeling like, oh, do I, what do, I'm new at this, or I'm, feeling unsure. And what a great opportunity to kind of lean into some questions, right? Particularly, I can imagine being in a situation, being one-on-one with a client, and when you're kind of getting that sense and saying, you know, I think I'm hearing is this. Can you talk to me a little bit more about that? Or even just, I think that so often we have, and again, kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier of both the examples of how we are supposed to behave and then just the direct instruction of how we're supposed to behave, and how much of it, and I think particularly for women, is a real dampening or muting of a lot of our own wisdom.
I'm struggling with
Yeah.
that too, actually, because I feel like when you think of a mental health practitioner of any sort, you think of this like very stiff and like professional and perfect person. And so when I started out reeling out my business, here I am trying to be like very professional, and then I didn't want to do it anymore. And so then when I like took a step back, I was like, why is this so daunting? And it's because skirts up is more true to my personality. Like this is how I am. This is who you get, and it is what it is. And so trying to be a perfect person in a mental health setting,
No.
it doesn't fit and it's not working for me. And why do
Oh,
I have to do that? Because it's like that stigma that mental health professionals have it all together. No, we don't. I
No.
think they just act like they do. I don't know, because I don't. And I think that's okay.
yeah.
I think it's absolutely okay. And I mean, it makes me think of one of kind of a core tenet of myself as a business coach with my clients was really kind of encouraging all my clients and to, you've got a business that you are creating, and you didn't go and join a big giant company. This is your own business or your own practice. And so you actually get to do it the way that makes sense to you.
Give it its own personality, not like
It,
what's
yeah,
expected.
not what's expected. And I mean, obviously there's, professional guidelines and ethics and things, and I'm not talking about straying from that, but just bringing kind of what works for you into it, because I think that actually will really allow for the clients who need you to find you and have such a successful result, right? And really benefit from what you can bring to it. And the other thing that I'll say that I certainly, I think there's such a it maybe it's less after COVID, but there was such a just a myth around that we've got our professional selves and our personal selves, and that one's supposed to be here and one's supposed to be there. And I remember when I first started my landscape design business, right? And I was like, oh, I've got to show up like at a certain look, and I've got to do this. And I don't ever want to talk about that. I don't want to mention, that I've got kids or that I've got this. And honestly, once I dropped a lot of that,
Yeah, that's like having double lives and have to remember which one's
it just
which.
was so much more fun. And my clients actually really
Yeah.
liked me. I mean,
Of
and
course.
not
But
that
they
they didn't
hired
like me
you, a
before, but they were
human.
like,
Yeah.
it just was, it actually made the process so much more enjoyable and
Fair.
and and really, I think, contributed to a lot better outcomes.
Yeah.
Melissa, do you feel like you
Sure.
like ran into this at all? Like having your own business? Like, did you feel like you had to be one way instead of yourself? Because I just think it's cool that
Um,
I can hear someone else say that they were feeling that too, how I have
yeah,
been
yeah,
feeling.
yeah. I only in some ways, excuse me. So we know I'm pretty liberal as a political stance. And so like I do feel like as far as that, like I'm here in the South and my
That's right.
clientele is mostly very conservative of a certain age women. And so I do kind of feel like sometimes I had to kind of like pull back a little,
Mm-hmm.
but I realized that I can still be myself and have different opinions with love. And so like in that instance, I guess I felt like I had to try to like hide who I was a little. I remember I was once at somebody's house and it's a wonderful human being. I like her a lot. But she was getting on a rant about politics and she goes, "No, I don't hate liberals." And I just laughed and I said, "Thank you for not hating me." And she was like, "What?" Because I think people just assume that we all think and
Yeah, the
behave
same.
and believe the same. So that was just kind of, I realized, hey, I can be my own self in that aspect. The other thing that I will say where I don't really relate is I probably should like maybe wear makeup more or look a little better. I literally had somebody tell me because I was wearing makeup one day when she came in. Now, granted, this particular human is kind of too outward with her thoughts in many instances. But she just said, "You look so good today." And really, this is what you really need to be looking like for your business. And so I just kind of like laughed and I was like, "Oh, really? Well, I just want to be who I am and I'm fine with that." And so there's yes, I've had to like kind of play in the waters with like, who am I and what do I care about and what do I not?
Yeah.
Well, it was so funny because I, as a landscape designer, and I also would install, either had a team or I would find people to install the projects that I was designing. I was always feeling like I couldn't be too dressed up.
Oh,
Like I had to
interesting.
make sure, like I had this, my daughter teases me because I had this whole kind of section of different khaki and green colored pants,
Oh, so they take you
and
seriously or
yeah,
something.
that they're not going to take me seriously unless I'm wearing pants and they're
Naturey.
naturey color,
Oh,
and
interesting.
I don't want to wear anything too fancy, and I want to make sure that my backpack looks like it can like show, I can't bring like
That
a
is
nice
so
purse or
funny.
something.
Okay, so when I started getting into gardening when we lived in this house, so like 2 years ago, I too bought like the cargo-y pants. I was like, these are the pants I go out and plant stuff in. But then I realized, so I like to wear these like rag-like dresses, like floor length, and they're just
Yeah.
that like raggy type material, and that brings me a lot of joy to go out and play in the garden too. So now I
Yeah.
literally will just put on one of my rag dresses that I wear everywhere and we'll go plant things. And my husband's like, "Are you really wearing a dress to go plant?" I'm like, "Yeah, it makes me
Yes.
happy. I
That's
feel like
so good.
I
Snow White."
know. Right?
Aw, I love that. I think that's kind of, yeah, it just depends. Like, yeah, sure, there's certain things that we kind of want to remember. Like, okay, I don't want to like go out dirty or stinking, of
Yeah.
course. But like, if we're just talking about me wearing makeup, that doesn't actually have a
Effect on
matter
anything.
to like affect, yes, on who I am or the things I'm putting out
What
into
you
the
have to,
world.
yes, have to offer. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But if we're
Yeah, and
talking
I
about our personalities and like who we are, that's something kind of like that we should not be afraid of. We shouldn't have to like we have to hide who we are, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
exactly, and I think too that all of these things that we are talking about, and eventually I did get comfortable enough if I felt like wearing a skirt to a client meeting and not wearing my gardening boots it's I'm not hurting anybody. Like
Mm-mm.
I
Yeah.
this doesn't, and it's and I think also the the better reminder is, to give ourselves permission to be ourselves in these ways that bring us so much joy. Again, it's like this doesn't impinge on anyone's,
Yeah,
anything. It's just
exactly.
yeah.
It's not illegal, it's not immoral, it's not
No.
hurting anyone's feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
like think that probably stems from though is that we've all probably had really corporate jobs at some point. And so like when you think about specific corporate places, restaurants, you have the set
A
uniform
uniform.
and look that you have to have. And so I wonder if in some ways it's like kind of instilled in all of our brains still that we have to look and be a certain way. And that's why it's so hard to be like, well, I don't actually have to do that. So let's figure it out. Just a thought.
Yeah.
I think I grew up going middle school and high school. We had uniforms, and which I loved. I
Oh, I
absolutely
hated
loved,
it.
loved it because I didn't worry about getting stuff on it. I didn't worry about sitting on the ground with it. I didn't worry about, having paint or something. It was so great. I felt like it was so liberating. It also was so great because I didn't have a lot of clothes. So actually, like the free dress days were the days of just serious
Stress.
hand wringing. It was like, oh, what am I going to put together that feels like it's cool enough or whatever?
Yeah.
And so I loved the uniform, and I probably
It's
dress
kind
a
of an
little bit.
equalizer,
It is a great
right?
equalizer, but then I also remember we all kind of had these ways that we were like pushing the envelope on it, right? It was like,
Make it
oh,
yours.
how, how short or how long do you wear it? And how do you do the different things with it? And so you're always trying to do a little bit of that. But I think it's interesting because I have never worked a very corporate job. And so I think for myself, there were times when I've tried to dress kind of what I'm imagining would be required of me at more of a corporate job again, in an attempt to fit in to, I guess, essentially make someone else feel more comfortable, right? But I'll never forget one of the most, I was hired to do a corporate training, and I was hired by a woman that I knew socially, and she had gotten this contract and she wasn't going to be able to attend because she had a conflict. And so she hired me to do her piece. There were three other women and myself, her piece of the presentation. And I was told, and I had to travel. It was in Pennsylvania, and I was told to dress professionally. So I was like, well, okay, I've got a button-up shirt and a blazer, and I have a skirt, and I got there, and it was it was a group that it was everything from people who were on the manufacturing floor to the attorneys in the C-suite. So, but
Okay.
the majority of the people were wearing like denim and puffers. And in that instance, it really undermined my ability to relate to the people that I was supposed to give training to the point where basically the feedback was like, you know,
She doesn't know. She's
we
not
hate
in
this
in the
person. Yeah.
trenches.
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
interesting. Yeah, that's interesting because there's so many. There are times when it's like, no, I gotta play the rules, play the game, or
Yeah.
whatever you want to say. But how do you still make it yourself? It reminded me of the movie Girls Just Want to Have Fun. I don't know if you ever saw that with Sarah
Mm,
Jessica Parker.
Yeah.
yeah.
And she like was a Catholic schoolgirl, and then as soon as they leave the house, they would do different things to their uniforms, like roll up the skirt or to make it their own. But no, anyway, That's funny.
I mean, kind of back to what we were talking about in getting to know ourselves, right? This dance between
Yes.
the external and the internal. And I know really my kind of peace and contentment has been really finding that path that is most in alignment between that
Balance.
external and internal.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Just to kind of like get back to the spaghetti on the wall, if you don't mind, you kind of created that, I feel, to help people find their center
Yeah, I
in
mean
a
the way,
non-threatening way.
yes, in a very gentle way. And I mean the way that I think about it is I cannot necessarily instill curiosity in someone, but if you are even slightly curious about yourself, this is such a great tool to get to know yourself, begin to trust yourself, and
Wow.
by extension, do less harm, right? Do less harm to
Yeah.
yourself by making choices that are good for you, that are who you are and who you want to be, right? And do
Yeah.
less harm to others. So it's
True.
I think that not only the creation of the journal, but I think the other thing that was so helpful in kind of my own self-awareness and self-discovery journey is finally just getting still for a moment. It's really hard to get to know yourself or figure out kind of what are the things that really matter to you when you are not giving yourself a few minutes a day to reflect on where you're at.
Yeah, because sometimes we all need to sit down and just have that moment to kind of self-discover. So
Yeah,
I'm
and
really that's exciting.
I like to encourage people to take that time with themselves because you're worth it. I mean, I know that sounds cliched, but it's like you are so, I guarantee you are so much more fascinating if you're willing to get to know yourself than whatever you're streaming or scrolling or whatever. You're really interesting. I would just encourage everyone to kind of dip into that creative mindset and think about kind of the infinite possibilities, right?
Yeah. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure.
It was a really good conversation. I felt like it really spoke to my soul.
Oh,
I
Oh,
feel like
thank
good.
you.
you spoke to my soul, Kristen.
Oh, thank you.
Did you like the episode that you heard today? Great! Share it with a friend and don't forget to rate and review.